Hey guys, of course, it's us. It's the Outlaws. So Dakar and I wanted to come on and give you a little context of what was going on. So we were trying to get this video out as soon as possible. One, because this is one of our favorite people, a great supporter of the show, a great friend of the show, Dennis Danger Madelone. Um, Stuntman, stunt coordinator. God, this guy is such great energy, such great positivity, and his wife, his lovely wife, had to help us reconnect some of the pieces to get this show off. So, to Miss Linda Madelone, I want to say thank you very much. You were a saving grace and a great technical advisor and technical worker today on Portal Talk. We had to splice this together, right? Marky Mark is joining us in the conversation. Now, you guys are going to notice the edits. Now, these aren't the best edits. Again, I'm working with a new system here. Okay? So get off my back. I'm working with a new system here. But we want you to enjoy the time that we had with this man who has given so many of us great moments in movie and TV fandom. I cannot stress that enough. Greatest American Hero, working with Richard Donner and on some movies with Richard Donner, Star Trek, DS9, Next Generation. Dennis is the real deal. So sit back and enjoy the show as we present to you Dennis Danger Madelone.
Hi, buddy. Come here. Come up here. Come here. Come here, Duke.
All right, everyone, welcome to Portal Talk. Of course, I am your host, Calibus Rand, and today is a very special day as we come back into our second show, right? Show two. I had to get Marky Mark in on this because he's a big fan of a certain show, and of course, the car was like, "Man, you know I got to be on this." So I was like, "Okay, Dennis Madelone, stuntman."
It's a long, super story. I was just a kid in New Jersey, South Plainfield, New Jersey, growing up. And I was about 5 years old, and I started jumping off my roof and rolling down the steps. And my mom and dad were saying, uh-oh, there's something wrong with Dennis, you know? And my mom even took me in and had me tested. They did. They put these wires and clay on my head, and they were trying to find out why I was doing these odd things. Why would their son beat himself up and throw himself all over the place? But I guess I was just mimicking all the old movies I was watching on TV. And I remember one day my dad came downstairs. I was about 8 years old, and I was watching a James Cagney movie. And my dad says, "It's time for bed, Denny." And I said, "Well, I'm watching James Cagney." And he goes, "You really love James Cagney, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And my dad said to me, "Do you want to be like James Cagney?" And I looked at my dad. I said, "No, I love James Cagney, but I want to be those guys he's beating up." Yeah. And how can a kid 8 years old know all that? I mean, but I did. I wanted to be those guys that were getting thrown through the windows and beat up by Mr. Cagney. And so I just had it in me. I didn't need to be in Hollywood. I didn't know what a stuntman was. It was just sometimes there are things in you that lead the way on what you're supposed to do in life. And if everybody could find the fun thing, the fun kid thing that we all grew up with, and actually do that for a job or a career or a living, that would be pretty cool. And so for all that to come around later in high school, I'm 17, 18 years old. I'm doing sports and I'm pole vaulting and I'm breaking the school record. And I missed my pad a few times and I didn't get killed. And people were saying, wow, you should be a stuntman. And that's when I started hearing the word stuntman. And then it all came together within a minute. And I started looking up stunt schools in the library in my hometown. And all I found was a studio in Hollywood called Falconer Studio. And I sent him a letter, and a letter came back, and it said, come on out, I'll make you a stuntman. And I showed that to everybody in town. It was like, holy, look at this, everybody, I got a letter.
Wow.
So I came all the way out here. I hitched a ride with my student friends. They left me on Hollywood and Vine. I ran to Falconer Studio, and I walked in there, and Mr. Falconer, he probably was about 70 years old. And he's showing me pictures of Errol Flynn, and Ken Berry, and all these stars that went to his school from the 30s and 40s and 50s. And I'm going like, holy. And then he takes me to one room and he goes, this is where you're going to learn to play the piano. And I'm, I want to crash on the piano. I don't want to play it. And so, and then he takes me in where there's ballet room. And then another room where you learn to sing, and another room where you learn to tap dance. And it was an old studio and that's how he trained actors. He trained actors how to do all the things, dance, sing. And then he took me into the room, and it was foils and sabers, fighting. And then I lit up. I'm going, okay, this is why I'm here. I want to do some fighting. And then he's saying, it's $50 for this, $80 for that, and the leotards for ballet dancing. I'm going like, oh. And so I didn't have any of that money. So I said, Mr. Falconer, I'll be back. And I walked out right on Hollywood Boulevard. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, this is not the stunt school. And this is exactly within a minute, a stranger came up to me and says, you look lost. And I'm going like, yeah, I got 2 suitcases. I'm on Hollywood and Vine, and yeah. And I told him I'm looking for a stunt school. He goes into a phone booth. Yeah, they had phone booths back then. And he must have called a place called the Stuntman's Association. And that was like the only iconic stunt group in the world. And they told him, go to Paul Stater's stunt school on Santa Monica. And so this stranger told me where to go, gave me the phone number of the gym. And the next day I'm out there, I'm meeting Paul Stater. I tell him all I have is $52. And he says, just give me the 50 and you keep the 2. And you could pay me the other 150 whenever you can afford to. It was like 200 to join. And I think the 200 really was just to let people in there that are actually serious, not just a whole bunch of people coming here. And a funny story is I'm going to jump ahead about 5 years after my career exploded, and I'm running like so many shows, and I'm just doing everything, the Greatest American Hero and 10 Speed and Brown Shoe with Ben Vereen and Jeff Goldblum and William Capp, Robert Kolb, Connie Selica. And my career just exploded. I never knew you could make money, because if you enter something and you're trying to make money, you'll hit a wall. But my passion wasn't about money. So when I started getting a check or two, that's when I realized, holy moly, I can pay my rent. I can actually eat tomorrow. And so I never knew that. So when new kids come up to me and they say, hey, I want to be a stuntman, I want to make money, I tell them right away, don't come in for the money. Come in because it's in you, because you have the passion and the drive, and all that other stuff comes later. And so that's kind of like, so what I guess, I told you the story about James Cagney, how I watched him on TV, and how in a way his story brought me to Hollywood. After I made it in the business on my 5th year, I went and worked on a remake of the Wild Wild West with Robert Conrad. And he took me in like a son. He loved me because Robert Conrad's like a stuntman too. He did the Wild Wild West and all these Blah Blah Black Sheep. And so he took me in because he saw maybe himself when he was younger. And he is like a stuntman. So he took me in, and he, I went to work on a remake of Wild Wild West starring Bob Conrad and Ross Martin. And I walked on the set at CBS Studios. And I walk on the set, and Burt Kennedy is the director. And I look behind the camera, and it's a roped off area. And who's sitting there in the chair with his wife? James Cagney. James Cagney. And I looked, and it all just hit me like, holy mackerel. This can't be happening, right? So I walked up and I looked at him and I went, okay, he's 80 years old now. And I'm looking, I'm saying, this doesn't quite look like the guy on TV, from 50 years ago. And I'm going, wow, this is James. And then my stunt friend, Kenny Lesko, came up to me and goes, that's James Cagney. And we can't talk to him because he's under the weather. And I said, hey, man, just seeing him is cool enough. So I go into makeup, hair. They put a short hair wig. I'm doubling Ross Martin. And I hit a device called an air ram, and I fly like 20 feet in the air. And I flip over and land flat on my back on concrete. And that's how I am. I'm just a crazy. I love eating concrete, and I love getting up afterwards too, by the way. But there's a method to the madness on selling it, eating it, and not really getting hurt. So I did a couple of those gags, and then I got air rammed into a wall 20 feet, right into a wall, and really ate it. I love performing, not just for the cameras, but for the crew. Because back then, when you did a stunt and you got up afterwards, the crew, and sometimes they put up like the Olympics, they'll put up a 10 and a 9. They give you scores. I mean, they did. And that's what I fed on, the not just the cameras, but the everyone there, it's like a live performance. And so I did those gags, and the director, Burt Kennedy, goes, that's a wrap on Dennis, and that's lunch, everybody. And I had a short hair wig, and I'm pulling the wig off and the pins, and Robert Conrad comes up to me, and the stunt coordinator, Chuck Courtney, a great father figure that took me in, and my buddy, Kenny Lesko, and we're huddling up talking about they're going to give me a stunt adjustment. And that's kind of what they do. They tell, oh, what do you want for eating the wall and concrete? And I remember it knocked the air out of me a little bit, so I was still out of breath. And Robert Conrad said, oh, Dennis, he's acting like he's hurting, so he gets some extra money, And so, and that wasn't true, but it was like, hey, maybe I am out of breath. I'll take some extra money. So they're all around me. We're talking. It's a wrap. The wig's coming off. And the bodyguard for Mr. Cagney walks up to all of us and splits Robert Conrad and Chuck Courtney and looks at me and goes, Mr. Cagney would like to talk to you. Do you have a minute? And Robert Conrad looked at me like, well, excuse me, danger. Holy moly. And so I started walking over to Mr. Cagney, and there's his wife, and there's the rope area, and she picks up the rope, and I come underneath it, and she whispers to me, James would like to talk to you. Could you please talk to him? And I'm saying to myself, are you crazy? This is Mr. Cagney. He wants to talk to me. And maybe for a split second, I'm thinking like, we do something pretty crazy that even Mr. Cagney or the president or anyone that doesn't do stunts, they are in awe of somebody eating it and then getting up. It's like, how did he get up after, you land on your back from 20 feet? So it's kind of neat to know that we do something kind of crazy and cool that people kind of look up to. And so I tell Mrs. Cagney, yes, this is an honor. And I walk up to Mr. Cagney. He was sitting in a chair with his head down, and he raised his head, and suddenly his eyes opened up. He came to life. He was like 30 years old again. And he said, sit, kid, sit down. Holy mackerel. And I sit down. He goes, what's that contraction that threw in the air? And I said, it's an air ram. And he goes, I used to use a wooden box with springs in it. And that used to throw me for a dilly now and then. and he's using all these 19, 20 words, and it's just amazing. And I'm in this zone with him, and everything's in slow motion. And while he's talking to me and asking all these questions, I suddenly have a flashback, and I'm 7 years old. I'm in my bedroom in New Jersey, and I'm diving off the double bunk bed, face first, with my red pajamas and a cape that I made, face first into the bureau, knocking my teeth out and knocking the bureau over and crashing and eating it. And I'm just realizing that, wow, this is and then I have this other flashback, and it's me with my dad. And there's the circle when Dad says, "Do you want to be like James Cagney?" I said, "I want to be the guys he's beating up." And it all flashed back and comes back to me. And I realized at that moment that I'm not the guys getting beat up by James Cagney, but I'm getting beat up in front of him. And that circle was incredible. And suddenly I snap out of it. I'm back with Cagney. He goes, "Boy, that really threw you for a dilly. And hey, when you're leaving today, don't trip up on the way out." And he's giving me all these cool 20 things. And I shake his hand, and he says, "All right, kid, see you later, kid." And I'm walking away, and Mrs. Cagney whispers, "Thank you so much for talking to Mr. Cagney." And I'm just like, this was like incredible. Thank you so much. I'm walking away, and my best stunt friend, Kenny Lesko, says, "Man, you blew it." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You were with James Cagney and you didn't get a picture." And I instantly said to myself, I got the picture. It's right here. And because I never took a picture of that moment, I remember every bit of that moment. It's not just a photo memory. It's every living moment of every word he said. And yeah, believe me, if I had a cell phone back then, that could take pictures, I'd be cranking away. But the moment I had with Mr. Cagney in that circle was incredible. So that was pretty cool.
Man, I'm telling you, that was that's the type of stuff that you really want to hear about. You know what I mean? That and meeting James Cagney, because I remember what it was like to meet William Shatner for the first time. And like you said, I'm like, holy crap, the guy is old. No disrespect to Mr. William Shatner. But when I saw him, I'm picturing young James T. Kirk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I saw him, so I can relate to what you were saying, and it just blew my mind, you know what I mean? But nothing like, what you had, of course, because that's just amazing. That right there.
Yeah, hey, listen, I've had so many moments of not being in awe, because we all are that. We all get in awe of stuff. A moment with James Cagney is impossible. A moment to be on the Johnny Carson show and blow him up when I'm 22 years old, that's impossible. I'm just a kid from New Jersey. But all those things are possible when you just keep putting out nothing but happy energy. And that energy, like you have, Calabas, is unstoppable. You can do everything and anything you want and meet everyone when you have amazing enthusiasm and happy smiles to share with everybody.
And I appreciate that, because I'm definitely on that journey. But it was something about getting back to doing stuff like this, meeting with people like you who are actors and actresses, people who are pencilers, people inside the industry, to share this with the community. And Facebook and YouTube, yes, they can pay you for doing this, but that's not why we're doing it. You know what I mean? We're doing it for the love of the fandom. It's just to put it out there. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. If I can get viral and make money, yes, I will do that. But right now, we're just doing it for the love of the fandom. So, I want to see if I can get that video and see if we can get you to walk us through it. Where to go? Had it right here. There it is. I gotta see if I can share it over. Give me a second. And we can share screen. There it is. Share with sound. All right. Share it. Did you guys see it?
Yeah, this is like this is me doubling John Savage. A movie called Inside Moon with Richard Donner directed it. And that's a world record high fall that I did in 1980 out of a building in LA. And it was pretty incredible. There's another film that I did on Stuntman. From Greatest American Hero, Blind Fury. This is from Greatest American Hero. So this is like a collage of some of my crazy stuff. When you do big gags like these, it's so much fun to pull it off. And you know, when you do gags like those, you just literally afterwards have so much fun with your safety team, your stuntmen, the directors, producers, the crew. They're all hugging you because they saw something crazy and you're still alive. So it's really cool to pull off the big gags, but I always take all the stunts, you know, serious, the small ones, big ones. Just always respect them and always have a method behind the madness so everybody gets to go home. And there's William Catt and Connie Sullica from about a month ago. We all got together and did a salute to our hero, Stephen J. Cannell, the great producer. And so that was a fun shot, getting together with them and talking about Stephen J. Cannell and his family. That's from the Greatest American Hero, me flying into a billboard head first into a real brick wall with some padding behind. So yeah, it's all
I don't know how you could. Let's see if we can get this up here.
Yeah, that's a exploding car that I did a car jump on Stuntmasters, produced by Gary Benz. And it was a series on TV about stuntman behind the scenes for like 20, 30 minutes, setting it up, how we do it, how dangerous it is, how we plan it out to get everybody home. And then we do the gag. And that was just, I remember the producer, Gary Benz, came up to me and goes, "What stunt do you want to do for us?" I said, "I want to drive a car 60 miles an hour, hit a pipe ramp, and go through a billboard 20 feet through the air as the billboard explodes." And he says to me, "Okay." And it was like, I mean, I just made it up. It was like, man, I want to do this. Because if you're waiting to do it in a movie, chances are that's not going to come up. And I got to make up that gag and do it. So that was pretty cool. And that's another angle of me falling. And back then, the airbags were small and very flimsy. And I remember right before I jumped, the crowd in LA, there was 1,000 people. You could see them on the corner. They all were waiting for this crazy man to jump. And I stepped on the ledge, but they had a camera jam. So I stepped back into the office room off the ledge, and all the crowd started booing, like, "Oh, chicken, blah, blah." And I'm going, "Oh, here, welcome to LA," right? And so they roll cameras again. I come back out, and I'm worried about the crowd because I need to focus. And they're all, but I came out on that ledge, and back, and you know, the airbag looks like that big. I mean, it looks like a matchbook cover. And my safety guys look like little ants. That's how high this was, 152 feet. And the airbag's like 10 feet tall. That's it. But I remember going out there, and the crowd was all screaming all kinds of stuff, you know, chicken. And I did this with my arms. I just waved them down, you know, like a thought in my mind. And suddenly they all respected that moment. And it was magical again to know that they all just, you could hear a pin drop. And I waited 3 seconds and leaped. And I remember stepping off that airbag, and the director, Richard Donner, who directed Superman and Lethal Weapon and all these great movies, He, before I did that jump, I wanted to talk to him, and the AD said, he doesn't want to talk to you. I said, what's wrong? He goes, he doesn't want to talk to you. I said, what kind of fall do you want me to do? A head or face off, suicide? He goes in the room, comes back. He goes, Richard Donner says, do any jump you want. So a suicide is the best. I mean, excuse me, a face off, because it was about, the movie was about John Savage committing suicide, and he ends up living through the whole movie. And he has all these injuries. So I remember telling the AD before I went up to jump, I said, okay, you tell Mr. Donner. I didn't know who he was, by the way. I didn't know he was that famous. I said, you tell Mr. Donner, when I come off that airbag, he better be the first one to hug me. And I forgot all about that. That was just busting chops. Anyway, I did the fall. I come off the bag. It's magical. My guys are, I'm stepping off the bag. They're pulling me. It's slow motion. It's really a beautiful feeling. It's as high as you could probably get, that deep feeling in you that you're going to go home and see the wife and the family again, right? And so it's a little bit of everything. And I come off the airbag, and out of nowhere, this big guy hugs me, and he's got tears in his eye, and it's Richard Donner, the director. And he listened to the AD, and he was the first guy to really hug me, and he wouldn't let go. And I found out the reason why he was nervous, he didn't want to see me, is because he had a dream 5 days before that stunt, that the stuntman doing it didn't make it home. Mm-hmm. And so it ate him up for 5 days, and he didn't really want to meet me or know me. And when that story broke loose 5 days after the fall, now I knew why he hugged me so tight and he had tears in his eyes, because his dream did not come true, and he was so happy, right? So,
man.
And this is a cool fire gag that we did on Deep Space Nine. And when you're on stage at Paramount Studios, you don't get to light someone on fire like that. You're on stage, there's fire alarms, there's fire codes. But at that time, I worked for 10 years already at Paramount, and all the heads of the studio trusted that we were not going to burn down the lot, you know? So that was really a great gag to pull off with all my team. Because, you know, yeah, I'm the guy on fire, and, you know, when they put me out, everyone claps and hugs me. But the truth is, I'm only the passenger. The people really doing that fire stunt are my stuntmen that prep me, put the glue on me, light me, and put me out. If they don't do that, I don't go home. So having a great stunt team really took care of me, and it's really all of us doing that particular stunt.
Man, I'm telling you, even looking at the picture, there's just no way. I just stunt persons, stunt men, stunt women, you guys are definitely a special breed, because there is just no way. I'm looking at that picture thinking, how could you? I mean, you know what I mean? It's that I mean, I get it. I mean, this is what you're that thrill seeker, you're that daredevil. But no,
you know, when we
hell
were showing
no.
But you know, there's a method to the madness, because I remember I jumped off the Paramount Water Tower on the Arsenio Hall show to open up their first show ever. And after I jumped, Mike Tyson was there outside, and so was, of course, Arsenio. So when I jumped off this 100-foot water tower into a small airbag, I mean, I came off the airbag, and Michael Tyson was going, you know, the boxer was going crazy. You're crazy. I would never do that for $20 million. And I'm looking at him going like, I would never go in the ring to fight him, you know? So everyone has different things that they can do that we look at and go, I can't do that. And so it's cool to have something that people look up to, but there's a method behind the madness. And if not, I wouldn't have made it a year. And so it's all about having a great team around you that right before I jump, right before I flip a car, right before I do anything, my stunt people, my team they got their eyes everywhere, and they're looking for the airbag, make sure there's no leaks, make sure when we put out Dennis that we get him out and he doesn't get burned. A lot of times when you're doing a burn, you have to hold your breath, and if they don't put me out in time, I breathe in the flame. So it's having all these great guys around you. So there's a method behind all the crazy stunts. But it's, look at me, I'm doing these world record high falls through windows, off roofs. But when I go into a building on the weekend with my wife and my family, and I'm on the 10th story and I look out the window, I get nauseous because I'm not with my team. I'm not with my guys. I don't have an airbag down there. So it's not gaffed out. So I don't like heights unless I'm ready to jump off. Then I love them. So it's really a weird feeling to go to a building and look out the window and get a weird feeling in my heart because my heart wants to jump, but hey, I don't got no one down there to catch me. So, so I always respect all the stunts, no matter what they are. And even though I was really good at hitting the air ram and setting world records on the air ram for the furthest and landing on concrete, every time I hit the air ram for years and years and years, I always respected it because if one time I take it for granted, I'll blow my knee out. So you have to respect everything. And football players, same thing. I mean, those guys are taking hits every day, but they get ready mentally for it. And that's important mentally to build yourself up. I remember I was getting ready to jump off a roof of another building, and I was doing a warm-up jump from the 10th story, and it was in a hotel. And then my next jump was going to be 150 something feet off the roof. So I went to the 10th story, and I'm going to do a warm-up jump, which I normally don't do, but in this case I needed to because the building looked a little crooked and things seemed to be off. So I wanted to make sure we were safe. And right before I did my warm-up jump, I'm in a hotel room with a bed and all that. And I walked past a mirror. I psyched myself up. I got into my zone. And it was just me and the airbag. And I walked past the mirror and I saw myself. And everything I psyched up fell apart. Because suddenly I saw a human. I saw somebody vulnerable. I didn't see the rock. I didn't see the concrete, the unbreakable mindset that you're in when you're a stuntman. And I remember seeing that and I just lost everything. And I leaned out the window and I said, give me 5 minutes. And I turned the mirror, took it off the wall and turned it around and hung it up. And I took 5 minutes to get back into my mindset of, building myself up to be that invisible stuntman, because I've never looked at myself before I ever did a stunt. And I saw a human. And so I didn't see the guy with the super suit. And so that was interesting. So I made sure forever that I'm never near any mirrors before I do a stunt. I don't want to see that guy,
Look at that. All right, look, guys, we only have a few minutes left because of the time switch, and I didn't do the prep for the Zoom stuff. But is there anything you want to ask Dennis real quick?
All right. Well, I guess I'll go first. I have two things. I love the stories you put out, Dennis. First of all, I saw that movie where you jumped out the window and the guy lived that committed suicide. I thought that was a fantastic movie because he did break his leg, and I think he had something else because he walked with the limp the rest of that movie. And I remember when he hit the car and then he got up, I thought that was horrible. And to realize you actually did that, that is amazing. And then when you were talking about James Cagney, I love Yankee Doodle Dandy. I remember watching that as a kid. That was one of my favorite movies, watching him dance. And then he couldn't get into the military because he was too old, but they couldn't do what he could do. So, thank you for telling those stories. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's my favorite movie is Yankee Doodle Dandy, because a lot of movies that I grew up watching him on TV, Mr. Cagney, he played, kind of like the bad guy, good guy. And in some of the movies, even the ones where he played the bad guys, he was so lovable, you know, that he never was the bad guy. And he never really hurt anyone innocent. It was always the other bad guys. And the few movies that he was killed in, I can't watch those movies because I love Mr. Cagney so much. I don't want to see any movies where he gets it. So when Yankee Doodle Dandy, I mean, what a great movie. I mean, you start to watch it and you're just in, you can't turn it off anymore because it's such a powerful movie. And he always said he was a song and dance man, and he proved it with him singing and dancing and doing it his style with the Cagney walk. And I mean, it was really cool. And as for the movie Inside Moves, that I did that jump, it was actually 3 jumps. I had to jump 152 feet into an airbag, 80 feet off a crane through a real tree, and where we scored all the branches, and then a 20-foot jump onto the car roof where I had to land flat first and really eat the car, and they blew the windshield. So when he cut it all together, it was we did that over 2 days. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And yeah, the movie to me came out the same year. Deer Hunter came out with Robert De Niro, and guess what? John Savage was in that movie too. And his performance in that movie, as well as Inside Moves, John Savage was tremendous. And the movie Inside Moves got hidden in the background because Deer Hunter was so powerful that year that Universal pushed that, and they took their own movie, Inside Moves, and they pushed it aside and promoted them for the awards. And so it was a shame because John Savage, his performance was really powerful in that movie. It's kind of like a hidden treasure. If anyone wants to punch it in, Inside Moves with Richard Donner, it's really a powerful, emotional movie.
Hey, Dennis, we really want to thank you for coming and joining us tonight. It's been a blast listening to everything that you've had to say, and your positive spirit and outlook on life in general is just absolutely refreshing. So we would, here at Cosmic Photo, would love to have you back again anytime you really wish to be here with us. I know I speak for Mr. Rand, and I'm speaking for Mr. Marky Mark over there. I know we all enjoyed our time with you tonight.
Hey, you guys are more than super, and you guys are more than the best. And it's an honor to come back, and maybe we'll get some of the stunt team on too, so we can have this crazy, great conversation and bring on some stunt women that I've worked with for 30 years, and they got some great, crazy stories too. So, but count on it. Whenever you guys want us back, or just me, let me know. And love seeing you guys and having fun telling the stories. And I look forward to being back. And everybody out there, just, you know, wherever you go, keep on making friends, because that's what real life is about, is reaching out and making some friends and having some fun.
Excellent.